monkeys. So,
But tell me, Suwana, are Asian prejudice mainly against white people like me?
oh no. You see, it seems to me that Malaya is a land filled with more prejudices than anywhere else in the world. The Chinese do not like the Malays because they do not eat pork, which is the favorite food of the Chinese. And one spiteful story suggests that the Malays were descended from the pigs, and that is why they don't eat them. And we have prejudices against the Japanese, of course, and many Malayans are anti-British, and we are very suspicious of the Siamese because we say that they use black magic, and also because they did not fight against the Japanese.
Well, it's true that the Japanese occupied our country in the Second World War, but they did not destroy it. Our country had been destroyed by invaders so many times before. At first, everyone thought that Japanese might win, but after that we changed our mind because we saw that Japanese would be defeated. But that was because our love to our country only. But after that, there was an English expression to Siamese talk to call the best person who change easily. Oh, we are very ashamed of it. Please don't use it anymore. I understand why you are prejudiced against Thailand. You know we have some prejudice against the Chinese too.
Oh, do you? What are they?
There are so many Chinese in my country, and they run nearly all the business, and they are very noisy too.
Oh.
And when we get on a bus, and there is only a small space left, the Chinese will rush in and take it. And if we get up to give the place to a little children or an old man, the Chinese will rush in and take it too. And if I sit between the two Chinese and they know each other, they start talking without carrying people in the middle and sprinkle so much saliva that I have to stand up.
That's not fair, Saroj. You're referring only to the uneducated class, and I think you're generalizing too much.
Well, the situation is quite similar in the Philippines. There are too many Chinese around and they control almost all the business and trade. That's why Filipinos have sort of some despise for them.
That's not fair. How can you despise them just because they are, well, intelligent and initiative?
Oh.
I don't think that would be fair either. That would be generalizing too much. Well, we even have a popular rhyme which runs like this: Inchik beho tu lulaway. And no, it means that Chinaman ruling Chinaman. And no Filipino would be glad to be called a Chinese.
Well, we wouldn't want a Filipino to be called a Chinese.
Well, I think Filipino prejudice against Chinese dates back to the time of the Spaniards when they were allowed to live only in the swamp area outside the walls of Manila. They had to pay higher taxes and they had to go on forced labor for a longer time.
Excuse me, Patsy, but in my country we have a quite different opinion of the Chinese. We always think of the Chinese as very wise people, with the men with long white beard.
Well, I think it's because you really didn't have Chinese in your country,
Yes,
that you really didn't have close contact with them. That's why you have that impression.
Perhaps you had close contact only with the poor people, the
No,
uneducated
no.
ones?
No,
The low
no.
class?
No. The average, I should say.
I'm not
There's the
noisy, am
rule,
I?
not the exception. Well, bubble.
Do you have any prejudices? We've given Lei Hup Swan kind of a bad time here now. She seems to be taking it in her quiet way, may I say. Do you have any prejudices against other nationalities in the Philippines?
Well, we have some prejudices against some people from India too. Well, in the Philippines, parents usually tell children awful stories about the Sikhs. By the way, they are those tall people from India who have long beards and wear turbans. Well, they usually say that these Sikhs catch children and put them in the sacks they always carry. I was always told this by my mother to frighten me into obedience when I refused to eat my vegetables, and it usually works. Well, war brought bitter feelings against the Japanese. Even nowadays in the Philippines, if a Japanese goes around unescorted in the slum districts of Manila, those crowded places, he wouldn't get out whole. He wouldn't only be killed, but he would be torn into pieces. He would be mobbed, and that's how they hate the Japanese because of the war. But there's a Japanese delegate in the forum who's just so sweet that I just can't keep a grudge against her. I like her very much. She's one of my best friends.
You know, I feel the same way as you do, but I don't think that if a Japanese were to come to Malaya, he or she will be torn to pieces because we are, well, better civilized people. And although sometimes I try to get rid of all my prejudices,
Well,
somehow
let's
or
try you
other,
out, Swan. You said you had prejudices against the white men, pink men, and also against the Japanese. Now, suppose you had to choose whether you were going to marry a Japanese or a white European. Which would you choose?
I don't think I'll choose either.
Well, but suppose you had to.
I think I'll remain a spinster after all.
On this subject of prejudice, I wonder how many of them really begin way back in the nursery, like you said yours did about the Sikhs.